Hello friends, today we are discussing the UPSC Combined Defense Services 2020 examination question paper. What we are trying to do is we are analyzing the questions asked in the UPSC CDS examinations with respect to polity, history and geography, and we are trying to predict the areas where polity can ask questions and predict the type of questions which UPSC can ask in the UPSC Civil Services preliminary examination. So we have already discussed the history questions, we have already discussed geography questions, and the videos are available in the description link. And we have also discussed the part 1 of the polity questions in the previous video. This is part 2. So see the part 1 of polity video before seeing the part 2. Today we'll continue with the part 2 questions. Stay home and stay safe. The next question is a very easy one. The Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises consists of. So recently government decided to do the disinvestment. Of course disinvestment is part of Ministry of Finance only. Ministry of Finance and Department of Investment and Public Asset Management, DIPAM. Department of Investment and Public Asset Management is taking care of disinvestment, but still what they are going to disinvest? They are going to disinvest the public sector enterprises. So these public sector enterprises are coming under the part of the Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises, and hence they are asking the question. The ministry consists of which of the following departments? So again this is a very easy question, because Ministry of Heavy Industry and Public Enterprise will consist heavy industry, Department of Heavy Industry, but Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade is part of Ministry of Commerce and Industry. So this is wrong. Again you are having Department of Promotion of Industry and Commerce, so you can eliminate this also. Department of Scientific and Industrial Research is part of Ministry of Science, so you can eliminate this also, because CSIR is part of Ministry of Science and Technology. Okay, so the answer is naturally D, Department of Heavy Industries and Department of Public Enterprises. Okay, so D is the answer. Very easy and direct question. Study about the types of disinvestment, because they can ask in the question types of disinvestment, which was discussed in economic survey also. In economic survey, in one of the boxes also they have discussed about the types of disinvestments in detail. Since disinvestment is in news for various reasons, please do study that. Next question. The first delimitation commission of India was constituted in which year? So again this is a very factual question and group 1ish kind of a question. If you could see, this is a group 1ish kind of a question, because they are asking year like that directly, but still we have to be ready for anything. Delimitation commission are meant for redrawing the constituencies and adjusting the boundaries of the constituencies, and the first delimitation commission was the one clue here is every delimitation commission is constituted after the census. If you could read properly in Lakshmikant, delimitation commissions are constituted after the census in order to readjust the constituencies after the census. Only after census we know the new population figures compared to the previous population figures. So with respect to the new population figures, you have to readjust the constituencies. You can readjust the constituencies only you have to because constituencies are readjusted based on population only. Population is the sole criteria. Okay, so population ratio is the sole criteria, and hence it should be after census. So you see which year is after the census year. So normally census year will end in 1. It should be 51, 61, 71, 81. So 49 is not a census year, 50 is not a census year, 51 is the census year. Okay, so but the census of 1951 will be released in 1952, right? So by logic and common sense itself you can say that it is 1952. So the answer is first delimitation commission was constituted in 1952, and then in 62, and then in 72, and then in 80. After 72 it was constituted only in 2002, because after 72 it was frozen to 1971 figures and it wasn't altered at all, only 2002. So this was all the years where delimitation commission was formed. So be clear, it is a very logical, even though you don't know the answer, you can answer this by logic, that it will be elected after the census. Okay, so D is the answer here. So we have so generally the delimitation, with respect to delimitation, the delimitation is done with respect to two things. One, with respect to allocation of seats to each state. Okay, number of seats in the state legislative assembly, like in Tamil Nadu it is 234, number of state in Lok Sabha for Tamil Nadu it is 39. So again number of seats in Rajya Sabha for Tamil Nadu it is 18. Likewise seats allocated to each state is adjusted after every delimitation commission, and this thing is frozen with respect to what? It is frozen with respect to 1971 census, and this freeze is applicable till 2026. So after 2026 we might have a new delimitation commission, or they might extend. The second thing for which the delimitation is done is boundary of the constituencies. Okay, boundary of constituency. Like constituencies are redrawn every time. In 2003, after 87th Constitution Amendment Act, 87th Amendment Act, what we did, we readjusted the constituencies based on 2001 census. So with respect to allocation of seats to states, it is frozen with respect to 1971 census. With respect to the boundaries of the each constituencies, it is done with frozen with respect to 2001 census. We haven't done it after 2011. We have done recently in 2001. I think so they might do this after 2021 census, but 2021 census itself is in a very big question mark because of the COVID crisis. Let us wait and watch. So the next question, which among the following is stated in the Constituent Assembly that on 26th January 1950, India was going to enter a life of contradictions. So this is a famous speech of Dr. Ambedkar. Whenever the question is regarding Constituent Assembly, it is going to be Ambedkar only most of the times, but that is not a rule always. There is one of the famous speech of Dr. Ambedkar is the final speech he gave in the Constituent Assembly. Okay, final speech given by the Ambedkar on the Constituent Assembly on November 25, 1949. 1949, on the day when everyone signed the constitution, on that day he gave this final speech. The day before the people signed the constitution, he gave the famous speech of day where we are going to enter the life of contradiction. So I urge each and every civil services aspirants to download that entire speech. It is one of the very important speech with respect to polity. It is some 10 pages only. 10-page speech only, roughly you can go through easily, you can go through very quickly, but each and every civil service aspirant should go through that speech because he has talked about a lot of things that will enrich your knowledge with respect to polity. At the same time, it will also be helpful in the mains also. So you read the speech. In his speech, what he is telling us, life of contradiction, is that with the constitution coming into force on 1950, India will become a republic. India will become a republic with a constitution which gives liberty, equality and fraternity. We are going to have liberty, equality, fraternity with respect to polity. In political life, everyone are equal. Everyone are going to have equal, everyone's vote is having equal value. Everyone is having right to vote. There will not be any discrimination. In political life, we got equality, but in socio and economic life, still we are not equal. Because even though the constitution states right to equality, still the caste structures will exist. Still the rich and poor differences is going to exist. So social life and political life might not be equal, but social or economic life might not be equal, but political life is going to be equal. So this is called as life of contradiction. In political sphere we are equal, but not in the socio-economic sphere. So we have to handle this life of contradiction. That is what he will be speaking in that speech. So if you Google itself, you can get this speech. On 26th January, we are going to enter a life of contradiction. In politics, we will have equality. In social and economic life, we will have inequality. In politics, we will be recognizing the principle of one man, one vote. Another thing which he will say in that speech was Union of Trinity. Union of Trinity is also a very important concept. So that's why I wanted to read you that speech. You see about that. Again, he will also tell that without establishing social justice and economic justice, just giving political justice is not meaningful. Okay, just giving fundamental rights is not the end. You should also make sure that all the DPSP principle is also coming to the real life. So that about that also he will be speaking. So you go and study the speech. Okay, it will not take you more than 1 hour if you could sit and study. It is a very good read. So the next question. The power of the Supreme Court to decide in the cases of dispute between 2 or more states is called as the power of Supreme Court to decide on the cases of disputes between 2 or more states. So the jurisdictions of the Supreme Court is classified into original, writ, appellate jurisdiction, advisory jurisdiction and court of appeal. In original jurisdiction only Supreme Court is having the in original jurisdiction only Supreme Court is having the exclusive right. In writ jurisdiction is about ensuring fundamental rights under Article 32. Appellate jurisdiction is case coming from the high courts. Advisory jurisdiction under Article 143 where president can ask advice. Court of record is about the enforceability of the judgments. And judicial review, we all know any law should come under the scrutiny of judicial review. So when the disputes between 2 or more states or center and few states here and some other states here is coming under the original jurisdiction. So answer is original jurisdiction. You be clear cut, have a clear cut understanding with respect to this. In appellate jurisdiction you will have some confusion, but you be clear which kind of jurisdiction is part of what. So the next question. 11th schedule of the Constitution distributes the powers between. So 11th schedule was brought under 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act, okay, to bring the panchayats, okay. So this 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act brought in this 11th schedule, which listed down the 29 functions, okay. This is a voluntary provision, that is, state can devolve this 29 functions to panchayat, whichever functions they want. Among these 29 functions which are in the state list, you can devolve these functions to the panchayats also, based on the wish of the state government. So that is what is being listed in the 11th schedule. So it is the distribution of power between the state legislature and panchayat, okay. From state list there are 29 items they can devolve to the panchayats, okay. So doing this is the ultimate reform. Article 243G talks about the 11th schedule, okay. That is also you have to be very clear. 243G, likewise important article only, you just remember 243G is for panchayat, like that you just remember, okay. Like for example, power is 243G, election commission is 243K, I think. So likewise you just remember the important things. Power to legislate on all matters relating to election and panchayat rest with who of the following. So only state legislature is having the power to legislate. Who can legislate with respect to matters on election to panchayats? So it is under the 73rd Amendment Act, what we did, state legislature can regulate the state panchayat elections in any way they want. Like recently what happened, generally the mayor elections, mayor election in Tamil Nadu used to be direct election, where we choose our mayor directly. We put 2 votes during the municipal election, that is one for the municipal councillor and one for the mayor. In the municipal election we used to put 2 votes, but what happened now, mayor is also going to be indirect election, that is we are going to vote only for the MCs, councillors, and councillors will elect the mayor. They converted the mayor election from direct election to indirect election in the recent amendment. Tamil Nadu government did that, so it is regulated by the state legislature only. The article is Article 243K. So 243G, like we saw recently, see 243G is for the devolution of power, and 243K is for election commission, okay. 243I talks about finance commission. So I finance commission, K means election commission, and G means power. So you just remember these important things, okay. The next question is also very interesting question. The provision of Constitution of India pertaining to the institution of panchayat does not apply to which of the following. This is the last line given in the article in Lakshmikant. If you could see about 73rd amendment in panchayat unit, this is the last thing which is given in that unit in the list of the when they are discussing about panchayat, and we tend to skip it, but they have asked the question from that. The provision of panchayat does not apply to these following states. So they have listed it clearly in the 73rd amendment itself. It is not applicable to Jammu and Kashmir, Nagaland, entire Nagaland. It is not applicable to entire Nagaland and entire Jammu and Kashmir and entire Meghalaya and entire Mizoram, okay. So answer is Meghalaya. It is not applicable to Meghalaya. Apart from this, it is not applicable in the scheduled areas. There are many states which are having small areas called scheduled areas. It is not applicable in those areas. Like for example, we are having scheduled area in the Andhra Pradesh. So this is Andhra Pradesh map. We are having a certain scheduled areas in the northeast region and this Karnataka border. These regions are scheduled area in the Arunachal, Andhra Pradesh, okay. In these regions the panchayat is not applicable, but in the rest of the state it is applicable. So scheduled areas and tribal areas. So scheduled areas under 5th schedule and tribal areas under 6th schedule, and hill area of Manipur and Darjeeling. They have listed only Manipur and Darjeeling here, okay, in the constitution. So you have to be very clear. You be clear. Not hill areas in all the state. Hill areas only in the Manipur and Darjeeling, which is they having their own administration. But now after this abrogation of Article 371, what happened? This Jammu and Kashmir is no more exempted from the Panchayat Raj provision. Panchayat Raj provision is going to apply full and fully to Jammu and Kashmir. So it is not going to come now. Only these states are going to come. You have to be very clear about this, okay. Again, this is a very interesting question. UPSC has asked the chronology like this many times. Even in 2018 also they asked, 2017 also they asked. So 2017, 18, I think so in 2018 they asked 3 chronology questions. There were literally 3 chronology questions. One from modern India, one from medieval India, and one from post-independence. So medieval India, modern India, and post-independence. So 3 chronology questions were asked, and this question is chronology from post-independence, and very interesting question. Which of the following is the correct sequence of formation of commissions? They have given 4 commissions here. Election Commission, Finance Commission, then we are having Planning Commission, then Investment Commission. These commissions, when they were instituted, they are asking for the chronology. And the right order is, first is Election Commission, which was constituted in January 1950. Under, it is a constitutional body. Okay, it was constituted in January 1950, the day before the Republic Day, that is Jan 25th, it was constituted. Election Commission. The next body was in March. In the same year, March, it was constituted, Planning Commission. So that is the second one. And then in 1951, Parliament passed the Finance Commission Act. After the passage of the Finance Commission Act, under the provision of Article 280, they established Finance Commission in 1951. And the Investment Commission is an interesting thing which was established in 2004. Okay, this Investment Commission was established in 2004 under the chairmanship of Ratan Tata. So Ratan Tata was made the chairman, and it was constituted for 5 years, 2004 to 9, and after that it wasn't constituted at all. It came only for 5 years. So Ratan Tata and there were 2 other members, so totally 3 persons. The main aim of this investment commission is to bring in investment. How to increase the investments in India? How to increase the foreign direct investment? Not just investment, foreign direct investments in India, and how to attract foreign portfolio investments, and how to increase the investments done by Indians also. So in general, how to improve the investments and what are going to be the policies, law. It acted as an advisory body only. Policies, law and other things with respect to investments, all those things. Manmohan Singh constituted it in 2004. So this was an interesting commission. But the thing is, recently government decided to bring back this investment commission. Government was having the plan to, it is just under the talk, still they haven't taken a decision, but government is planning to bring back the investment commission also. Okay. So it is a very interesting question. First election commissioner was Sukumar Sen. First chairman of planning commission was no other than Jawaharlal Nehru, and the vice chairman was, I think so, the vice chairman was Gulzarilal Nanda. Gulzarilal Nanda was the first vice chairman, and then it was K.T. Krishnamachari. So then Finance Commission's first chairman was P.C. Niyogi. Niyogi was the first chairman of Finance Commission. So this is the thing. And the Investment Commission chairman was Ratan Tata. This one new thing which you have read here. And this question also very easy question, very direct question. The formulation of policy with respect to intellectual property rights. So intellectual property rights is under the responsibility of Department of Promotion of Industrial Trade and Industry and Internal Trade, that is DPIIT. DPIIT. It is coming under Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Okay, Ministry of Commerce and Industry takes care of the patents, geographical indicators, copyrights, trademarks and all those things. Before this intellectual properties was under Ministry of HRD. It was under Ministry of HRD. Later it was transferred to Ministry of Commerce. Okay, Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion. Actually this department's earlier name was Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion. That's why I'm keep repeating that word. Recently they changed the name to Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. The creation of Federal Court in India was advocated by which of the following acts? Again, it is a very easy question. The Federal Court, Supreme Court of Bengal, if you could remember, Supreme Court of Bengal was created under the Regulation Act. Okay, it was created under the Regulation Act of 1773. But Federal Court of India was formulated under Government of India Act 1935. Okay, later when the Constitution came into force in 1950, this Federal Court came under the Supreme Court of India. Okay, so Federal Court came in Government of India Act 1935, and Supreme Court of Bengal was formed under Regulating Act 1773. Regulating Act 1773 gave for Supreme Court of Bengal, but Federal Court came under Government of India Act 1935. So thank you friends, we have come to an end. We discussed the polity questions. Actually in CDS examination, the questions which they focused was mainly they focused on geography, history and polity only. With respect to economy and environment, there were just 2 or 3 questions only, so that will not be sufficient to discuss it. So they focused only on these 3 areas. That's why I have discussed these 3 questions now. You see all the previous videos with respect to history and geography questions too. We will see in the next video guys. Thank you. Stay home and stay safe.